Let me get that right one of these times. So commissioners, be ready to unmute your mics when you're ready to talk. So let's try that again. Good afternoon and welcome to the June 7th, 2021 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led today by Commissioner Jim Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray, please. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to join together as representatives of this city to discuss and address the issues of our community. Please guide us as we listen, think, and ultimately decide what is the policies that are in best interest of our citizens. And as we continue to remember and reflect on the anniversary of the Pulse tragedy, please comfort and heal our hearts and our minds. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Jim Gray,
here.
Commissioner Ortiz, Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Burns,
Present.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business is to consider the minutes from the agenda review and city council meetings
So
of
moved.
May the 17th. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, we don't have any awards presentations or recognitions today, so we will go right into the mayor's update. So welcome back, everybody. So last Tuesday, we welcomed all the employees that had been working virtually back to City Hall. Now, understanding that probably 80% of our workforce, police, fire, public works, family parks and rec, had been doing their jobs in person for the last 15 months anyways, but a large portion of the employees that work at City Hall had been working virtually, so everybody is back in the building, and I want to thank all of those that have been working over the course of time, and those working virtually. Our permitting services probably, every month, year over year, had more permits issued than we did the year before that, and that was all working virtually. So I think we didn't hit any road bumps as we continue to provide services for the people of the city, and I appreciate the hard work by those that were working in person and those that were working virtually. I'm also pleased to announce that the City of Orlando was again named one of the healthiest employers in Orlando by the Orlando Business Journal. That's been the case, but I'm extremely proud of that because the health and safety of our employees is certainly one of our top priorities. As Commissioner Gray mentioned during his during the prayer, that it's been 5 years. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years since the Pulse tragedy, and our community continues to mourn for the 49 angels that were taken on that day, and we continue to support survivors and the families and the first responders. So under the management of the LGBT Plus Center, our Orlando United Assistance Center continues to provide personalized services, including mental health. So if you need help, please reach out because we're there for you. We're so proud of the response of our community after the tragedy. We showed the world what love and unity and compassion looks like, but we know this is a very difficult time for a lot of our citizens, and it's okay not to feel okay about things, and just know that there is help for you. A week after that, our community will celebrate Juneteenth and the end of slavery in the U.S. on June 19th, 1865. It's an opportunity for us to recognize the gains of Black Americans through the determination and perseverance and greater opportunity, and to acknowledge that the struggle for equality continues. And then a few weeks after that, we're going to have the fireworks at the fountain again at Lake Eola Park. I look out, isn't it great not to be wearing masks? And that's because our community heeded the call to get vaccinated, and we continue to do that to be able to do events like fireworks at the fountain. I have a couple things on the agenda. So CARES Act funding, we're continuing to be able to leverage federal funds, and we have 12 funding agreements totaling almost $3 million with partner agencies that care for some of our most vulnerable neighbors, including those that are experiencing homelessness. And it is, we're grateful to those partners that are making sure that some of our residents have a safe place to sleep and their basic needs of clothing and food and hygiene are being met. And then every year, we're very happy to vote on funding for Mayor's matching grant proposals. And these grants support our local neighborhood associations, our not-for-profit organizations, and schools with programs that enhance quality of life in our city by providing a variety of programs, adding neighborhood safety features, enhancing the beauty of our neighborhoods, providing critical summer mentoring programs, increasing access to creative arts and education, and career exploration and athletic programs. So I know that several of the organizations are here today, or they may be appearing virtually, but those that are here in council chambers, if you would stand, we'd love to recognize you. Thank you. Well, and I recognize Opera del Sol, who is doing a student scholarship program for the arts. So thank you, ladies, for being here. Okay, and then let's see. Lastly, last council meeting, we voted on some items to make a safer environment for our downtown patrons and residents in the downtown entertainment district. And I think there was consensus on all the agreements except one, and that relates to the closing of sidewalk cafes at the hour of 10 p.m., which had been recommended by staff. But staff has withdrawn that recommendation, and I'll have Thomas go ahead and explain that during the CRA portion. Okay, with that, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is the number of items acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our council members an opportunity to comment on items on the consent agenda or update you with important happenings in their district. We rotate the order that we do that, and first up today is Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick word of thanks, and I'll get to the agenda. On May 19th, Brightline Trains had an open house that certainly the mayor and Commissioner Stewart was there and others, but it's exciting to see they announced they're about 50% complete with installation and should be up and running functionally, I think, the end of next year after they do the testing. But it's exciting to see another form of transportation between here and Miami, and I know there's plans to head south to Tampa and then down to Naples. So exciting times in the mass transit world, and thanks to them for showcasing their facility down by the airport. On the agenda, just a couple of things. I did want to mention the housing grants. The mayor mentioned it, but maybe a little bit, hopefully not too little too late for some of our groups, but thanks for hanging in there. But I'm glad we could help some of our partners through that CARES Act. That's a good thing. Also, K3, I see we're going to vote to appoint a new board member to GOA. So Mayor, got some help on the board. Thank you for your efforts there. The airport is extremely important to our city and Central Florida. So it's good to get some more leadership on the board to help there. And then, as I said before, it's not on the consent agenda, but I am abstaining from voting on CRA item number 4, and I have filed the paperwork with the clerk. So that's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's move on to Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me start by, recapping. On June 6th, we commemorated those who lost their lives during the pivotal event known as D-Day. May we never forget the sacrifices that were made to honor our country and the allies we vowed to protect as countries united to storm the beaches of Normandy. It was truly a historic feat that changed the course of World War II and the futures of so many. As we approach the 5th anniversary of Pulse, I want to take this time to honor those who are still healing and those who are no longer with us. June 12th will always be remembered in the city of Orlando's history as a day that united not just our community, but also neighboring cities, states, and nations. To the 49 who are gone too soon, we'll never forget you, and to those still healing, we continue to stand with you, Orlando United. I just want to congratulate, the Catholic Charities on item F 14, 15, and 16. I know they're getting a little bit more of funding with the pandemic and all the cost of materials going up. I know that they need it, and I'm looking forward for this particular program to end, to come to fruition for this particular houses, but to end once and for all, and see what else we can get from the federal government next. Anyhow, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me also share my condolences as we commemorate the 5th anniversary of the Pulse. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to go down to the Orange County Historical Museum and do a walk around and look at the new exhibit. It is wonderful. What a great expression, done, very well done. But I will tell you a short story, and that is that as I was walking through, here comes a man and his 2 kids. I bet you one wasn't 5 and maybe one was 2. And they are asking questions about what was happening. Why is this important? And it was so neat to hear the father's tender responses about what happened, about why it's important that we remember to basically a 5 and a 7-year-old. And I think that's the legacy that we should continue to strive for, to never forget and remember the lives of these 49. So thank you for the Historical Museum for doing that. Happy Father's Day to everybody coming up. Free admission to dads, so that will be over at Lou Gardens. Special thanks to Cody Hewlett. Cody is the son of Assistant Chief Hewlett for the work he did over at the Fire Museum. Had a chance to be out there with Chief Barksdale on Saturday. Thank you, Chief. He refreshened and rebuilt all the picnic tables around there, each one commemorating to a different district or a different firehouse or a different event in the history of our Orlando Fire Department. So it was really neat, and I got a chance to meet him. What a neat guy, and he did it for an Eagle Scout project. He's going to go far. Also want to say a special thank you to retired Chief Rich Wales for 30 years of service. He came in at a very challenging time in our city, especially in dealing with the fire department, and did a wonderful job keeping us on keel. So I appreciate his work. So I thank you for that. And a special thanks, I get a chance to say some nice things about Commissioner Ortiz. We did this the other day at the Florida League of Cities. He's getting ready to step down as president of the Florida League of Cities, and I'll share with you what I shared with them. I get a chance to sit next to him. I don't know anybody who walks the walk and talks the talk as much about cities and what they mean and how to become great cities than Commissioner Ortiz. He does it from this dais. He also does it on behalf of the League of Cities. So Commissioner, Mr. President, for a few more weeks, Mr. President, thank you for the work that you've done with the Florida League of Cities. It means a lot. So, a couple of quick events. If you're in College Park tonight, we have the College Park Neighborhood Association's having their Facebook Live meeting at 7 o'clock. You can get the information off their website. Orlando Science Center is doing their Make Fest on June 19th and 20th. It's a chance for makers to come in and do exhibits and classes and seminars. To get a chance to come, it really is always special. And then the Ivanhoe Village is hosting their inaugural summer, I think it's Summerween. If you think of Halloween and put summer in front of it, you have Summerween, which is their chance to begin to come back to a little bit of normalcy. And in light of that, let me just touch on a couple of quick items on the agenda. Mayor, I thank you for moving forward on fireworks at the fountain. I think that's going to be important for us, and I think we can do it safely. But the most important part, I think it brings us to a little bit more normalcy, and we get there step by step. The same evening, Baldwin Park is having their Freedom Fest. They'll be doing fireworks over Baldwin Park, Lake Baldwin, I mean. And then, of course, today on the Mayor's Matching Grant, let me just touch 3 of them that have impact in my district, especially the Orlando Ballet, the Dueling Dragons, and Orlando Fringe. Those are 3 very important programs and projects that we do in our community. And Mayor, every time that we do this, I just want to thank you for continuing the Mayor's Matching Grant. We don't have to. We choose to do that because of the impact on the community, and I appreciate your leadership in doing that. So thank you very much, and that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor, and I am vaccinated, but I'm still going to be a little careful because you know what? This was something else. So while we're transitioning and having the public in, I think I'm going to keep my mask on for just a little bit while. Well, just a little while longer, but you'll be seeing my smile soon. But just letting you know I'm vaccinated, but I'm being very careful. It has been 5 years since the Pulse massacre, and 5 years is a very important time when it comes to dealing with trauma, because a lot of folks will actually access services at 5 years that hadn't. It's just part of trauma, something that I've had to learn here, which I hope I would never have to as a member of the LGBTQ community, to have members of our community be the victims of what at that point in time was the largest mass shooting in American history, which unfortunately we've been usurped in that. And I hope I'd never seen that again. It was beautiful and horrible. It was beautiful the way the city came together. It was horrible, you know, seeing the aftermath of it. And I got to meet 38 of the 49 families, and I got to know their kids through them and their grief. And I wouldn't wish that horrible, horrible thing on anyone. And I think it's just horrible that the governor has vetoed $150,000 of funding to the Orlando United Assistance Center this week. It's just the most unconscionable, horrible thing I can think of. And I would encourage him to talk to one of those families. If he doesn't understand what it's like to lose a child to gunshot violence, he needs to talk to one of those families. I talked to 38 of them, and I got to know many of the survivors. And these kids and these families need additional help. And it was just the wrong thing to do. I want to thank Senator Linda Stewart, Representative Anna Escamani, and Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith, who got us this funding put in the budget. I want to thank the legislature for appropriating the funding. And I just do not understand how the governor can say that he wants to help with mental health issues, that we can't do anything about guns, we need to do something about mental health, but then cut the funding to people who are the victims of the largest gunshot violence in Florida. It's unconscionable. So again, it's a tough time for me, and I know it's a tough time for a lot of the families. But I want to thank this council, Mayor Dyer. I want to thank you for the way that we've continued, Chris, the way we've continued this very, very necessary help to these families and to these survivors who still need it. It's the important part of what we do. So everybody says, well, what's the big deal? It's been 5 years. It takes a long time to heal after something like this. And I also want to thank all the city employees who left their desks in the first days afterwards to help with immigration, to help with funeral expenses, to help. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll never forget it. And again, we will never forget this happened here in our city. But we're going to make sure that we take care of our own. Mayor Dyer, I know what we will. But it's just a really hard time to hear that out of Tallahassee this week. We also celebrated the life of Commissioner Mary Johnson, and I'm very proud that we decided to make her, Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Emeritus. Usually that's given to someone while they're still alive, but Commissioner Johnson was always a very humble person. It's not something that she would have asked for, and Mayor, thank you for bestowing that honor upon her, because she was one of the first women elected to public office, the first Hispanic elected official. And that was back when they didn't just get to run in their districts, they had to run citywide. So as a minority, it was really hard to win citywide. And Mary Johnson did that, Commissioner Mary Johnson. So it's sad that that we've lost her about a year ago. Could just now come to celebrate her life. But I think it was really, really important to recognize her accomplishments and to give her the honorary title of Commissioner Emeritus. On the agenda today, I was also very happy to see the Mayor's Neighborhood Matching Grants, the funding for the arts programs. The arts are what make our lives special. I think we all realize, in not being able to go to any arts, how very, very important. Arts are what make life worth living. So Art Reach, Central Florida Community Arts, Central Florida Vocal Association, Fringe Festival, Orlando Ballet, Orlando Philharmonic, Orlando Rowing, Urban Think. These are all great programs. There's many, many more as well. But again, these are the kinds of things that really make life worth living. You don't realize until you don't have them how very, very important they are. And I guess I'll end up with trash talk, debris management removal. It's really important, and I'm glad that we're making sure that that Orlando is prioritized when we have to deal with cleanup after disasters and things like that. Debris management removal is very, very important after a hurricane, so I'm glad to see that we got that city priority in the contract. And that's all I had for the mayor today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheehan. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor Dyer and Council. I also want to send my heartfelt, still condolences to those that were families that lost their family members in Pulse. And also, Mayor, we lost a city staffer, Mrs. Melinda Poole, here on May 27th, which worked for the venues. She was a financial analysis. And I want to her co-workers, say that I feel their pain. I knew Melinda, and also to her sorority sisters over at Delta Sigma Theta of Orange County. So I'll be attending the funeral. Mayor Dyer has a event with Pulse, and so Mayor, I will stand in the gap for you, for the Poole family. On Wednesday 19th, I attended with this council, I think Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Sheehan, Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Stewart, also Thomas Chapman, Walter Hawkins, and Frank Billingsley. They gave a speech out of this world, just impromptu, about the 50th anniversary of downtown Orlando and how we have moved the city forward under, especially Mayor Dyer's leadership. I remember riding through downtown as a little girl and being so happy, and then the decay set in place, and then when Mayor Dyer was elected, how he has transformed our downtown corridor and many on this council. And I just want to say thank you all for your leadership and staff, and thank you, Thomas, who I call Mr. Downtown, TC, for his leadership as the downtown CRA director. Because we know that, as my colleague in District 1 says often, if it is not for a strong downtown, we couldn't do the great work that we do in Paramore, and I really appreciate our downtown businesses. On Saturday, May 22nd, I attended a community meeting held by Commissioner Burns. I was able to attend and join him regarding the Raleigh Street project there in District 5, District 6, and I'll let you talk more about that since you led that meeting, Commissioner Burns. But thank you to the city staff that helped put that together it was really well attended, so did some great outreach, Commissioner Burns. On Tuesday, May 25th, I was able to attend yet another major moment there in Creative Village Paramore, where we open up the Monroe, which is part of the Good Salt Restaurant Group under the leadership of Jason and Sue Chen. They also donated $1,000 to a nonprofit there. What a great group of people. I'm just so excited that they're there in Paramore Creative Village. You could see the love and compassion and respect that they have for that historic African-American community. When you walk into the Monroe, you can just feel such warm vibes, not just the decor, but they have paid great homage to Paramore in there, and Dr. Monroe Wells, who you all might know, started the Wells-built hotel there on South Street. So I would ask you all to go and patronize them because of the great food they have, but because they're good people, want to do some good work in this community. And with that saying, talked about the great work, I was able to attend the Christian Service Center and meet with Eric Gray there, that has multiple programs connecting the homeless there in the Paramore area, downtown area, to services. Many a times we're not trying to give handouts, but hand-ups, and through the work that Commissioner Stewart has done there at the Christian Service Center and passing the baton to Eric Gray, I see just more and more great things to come. And thank you, Commissioner Stewart, for setting the foundation there at Christian Service Center. I'm proud to announce that my and Commissioner Burns' alma mater, Jones High School, had a graduating class and they were able to walk. I think they possibly, Commissioner Burns, I don't have the exact number, but we had at least, I saw 100 white robes. And those white robes identified honor students. So as you heard earlier this morning in my Brother's Keeper and Paramore Kids Zone presentation about the funds that this council, and through the leadership of Mayor Dyer, we had 42 graduates that graduated from Jones High through our Paramore Kids Zone, and over 2 million scholarships, academic scholarships, was achieved during a pandemic, right? When it was virtual learning and at-home learning. I think that states a lot about Principal Allison Kirby and the teachers there at Jones High, because many of these children did not have great broadband or internet access, so they had many challenges to overcome. Many of them, at times lights was disconnected because of the loss of jobs and waiting for some of the social service programs to kick in, and they went to McDonald's to use their Wi-Fi. So I'm just so proud of the resilience and the tenacity of those youth there at Jones High School under such horrible conditions that the whole world experienced. And I'd like to thank Second Harvest, also our city recreation team, and the Islamic Society of Central Florida for assisting me this weekend, this last Saturday, to feed over 500 families approximately 2 tons of food, which was meats, vegetables, fruits, dairy products, breads. And they just did a phenomenal job there, and we did it at the Emory Hamilton Sports Complex. And it just talks about how Orlando is City United, not just because of one incident, but it set a tone of what followed that, of all of us working in collaborative efforts for the greater good. And so I'll end with this. I am so grateful for this council, because much of the homeless services is in District 5 downtown, and most definitely the service centers are there in Paramore. So this $3 million will go a long way for emergency shelter and rapid rehousing, and I foresee more is going to be needed as soon as the moratorium is lifted here soon. But we do have things in place to try to help circumvent much as that is possible, with us hiring KPMG to help with rental assistance for those that are making under $61,000 a year, and putting a priority on the very low income. But hopefully we can find money. We are making sure that we're, providing services with laundry, showers, meals, housing, education. But many of those that are on the streets of Paramore and some in downtown are now pitching tents. And those folks are suffering from a lot of mental health issues and substance abuse issues. And they're not going to go inside some of these shelters. They're not going to want to be housed. So we really have to start really targeting the root of this problem, and it's called mental health. And it's called substance abuse, which attributes to the mental health. They're self-medicating, which is also a disease. It's not something we need to frown upon. They're sick people also, as that's a sickness. And, if you ride through Paramore, you'll see a lot of great things happening with affordable housing, economic development. But what you will also see, unfortunately, is a lot of people roaming the streets that are mentally ill, that are now sleeping in tents, have mattresses, and different things on the sidewalk. My fear is, if we do not address this with these agencies while we're funding them, that we have to make sure that they address this mental health piece, not just housing, We did the housing first. We've made some great strides, but they really have to put some type of programs together, Mayor, to address it. Kids and families are somewhat just as afraid to go down the sidewalk right now as they are downtown. And they have to live with that. A lot of people say, not in my backyard, not in my backyard. Well, they're in these folks' backyards in Paramore and in their front yards. I know, Chief Rallone, your guys are doing a great job, but we can't incarcerate sick people. You know, we can't incarcerate ourselves out of that. But I'm hoping that staff can find some organization, some facility, somewhere near, you know, and we start to, after they close that Gore Street Aspire Center for Drug-Free Living, that really created a huge gap that we have there in the Paramore area. So maybe we can revisit that site with an organization, Mayor, to see what we can do to seek some type of treatment for those that are mentally ill there in Paramore and those suffering from substance abuse, Chris. We got to do something suddenly, because if you drive down, people would not know the millions and millions of dollars that we're using to address many of those issues. And that's all that I have. Sorry I ended it with that, Mayor, but I am asking these agencies that's receiving this $3 million you're doing a great job with housing, but you're gonna have to put another component, another layer to that, because those people are being served that they've targeted, but now that other demographic that are laying on the streets and pitching tents and laying on mattresses in broad daylight, they need to target those. Else we're gonna have Skid Row in the city of Orlando, Paramore. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to acknowledge the 49 angels that were taken from us during the post-tragedy, but also our response as a city truly makes me proud to be a resident of the city of Orlando, but also now a commissioner of this great city. So I'd like to say to my colleagues, thank you for your work in the previous 4 years of doing what we should do to make sure that everyone is protected. As Commissioner Hill mentioned, on May 22nd, we hosted a community meeting in Carver Shores about the upgrades to Raleigh Street. And thanks to Corey Knight and the transportation team and the city staff for helping to host a successful meeting. The RFP for the construction, I understand, has been released, so I encourage everyone who's interested in bidding on some of that work to do so. This past Saturday, I joined Mayor Dyer for the reopening of the Grand Avenue Park in Holden Heights. The playground equipment looks great. I had my daughter with me. She enjoyed it until I had to get out of the sun. But I'm excited that the kids in the area will be able to enjoy these upgraded amenities right in the time for summer. And thanks to the FPR team and the city staff for putting on such a great event. This Saturday at the Smith Center, I'll be joining the Promises Initiative for a home buyers and home sellers workshop from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. where attendees will learn about everything from financing options to learning the proper value of your home. So if anyone would like to sign up, please call my office and we'll get you on that list. For Father's Day, I'm joining Equal Ground Education Fund at the Smith Center to celebrate fatherhood. More information to come, but we'll have giveaways and gifts for our dads in the district. We did a big event for the mothers. The fathers event won't be as big because we just don't do it as big for fathers as we do for mothers, but we are looking to have some fun and celebrate our fathers in District 6. Also, summer camping's going strong at both neighborhood centers in District 6. For those interested, swim lessons are still available. And the center is offering 4 more lessons for the summer. To sign up, please call 407-246-4477. I also want to note that the basketball goals are back up at Smith Center. Glad to see those back. But also I want to encourage our residents to continue to keep ourselves safe, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, and if you hadn't gotten your vaccine, please consider doing so. Mayor, for the agenda on items A3, I just want to congratulate all of the recipients of the mayor's matching grant. And again, thank you, Mayor, for making this happen for so many of our deserving nonprofits and neighborhood associations. Also, F1 through 12, I'd like to say thank you to the organizations that Commissioner Hill just mentioned, who are receiving some CDBG and ESG funding. Just want to encourage them to continue to do the great work and serving this vulnerable community members. But also, as Commissioner Hill mentioned, I think it's a time for us to be innovative in our approach, because we're experiencing something that we have not experienced before. So I just would like to encourage them to continue the good work, but also find ways to better serve. Also, and with that, Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Ortiz. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, without objection, we'll recess the City Council meeting and we will convene the CRA meeting. Thomas, if you'll come forward. I think I can handle the first two. First one is accepting meeting minutes from the CRA Advisory Board on April the 28th, 2021. Is there a motion to accept? Motion by Commissioner Hill.
Second.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And then approving CRA
So moved.
meeting minutes of May 17, 2021. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, Thomas, you can take over from here. Number 3.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Item 3 is approving highway and high-value job creation guidelines. This program, which has been in existence since 2006, was originally conceived in order to locate, identify, and to target industries and targeted headquarters, and bring them into downtown Orlando with high-wage jobs. Currently, the program calls for benefits of up to incentives payable in the amount of $4,000 per job over a 5-year period of time after the fact, after demonstration of performance. The staff is recommending revising the program to not only apply to companies coming into the downtown CRA area, but targeted industries and headquarters which are already in the downtown CRA area and are looking to grow beyond their pre-pandemic levels. Actually, the first amendment of economic development is business retention. So holding on to what you have and growing that is always a good strategy. The advisory board recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval of the revised high-wage, high-valued job creation program guidelines.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion, questions of Thomas? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Let's move on to number 4.
Thank you. Number 4 is approving a downtown commercial and residential building improvement program funding agreement between the CRA and Southwest Valley Partners, Value Partners, Orlando Office LLC for 255 South Orange Avenue. The program, of course, offers a 3-year interest-free deferred loan for facade and/or building stabilization improvements to existing properties within the downtown CRA. The matching funds are in the amount of up to 50%, with a not to exceed of $100,000 for qualified improvements. Southwest Valley Partners, the applicants here, are estimating a capital investment for these improvements, the proposed improvements, of just over $241,000, which will make them eligible for funding assistance of just over $94,000. The Downtown Commercial and Residential Building Improvement Grant Review Committee is recommending approval, and staff is recommending CRA approval today.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 5.
All right, items 5, 6, and 7, Mayor and Commissioners, continue to show momentum and popularity of the residential component of the same program we just talked about. So this is a residential building improvement program funding agreement between the CRA and the owners of 313 East Amelia. On the residential side, again, the program allows for up to a 50% match for qualified improvements with a not to exceed of $15,000. And this applicant's improvements are valued at just over $17,000, making them eligible for funding assistance of just over $8,600. Again, the Downtown Commercial and Residential Building Improvement Grant Review Committee has recommended approval, and staff is requesting approval today.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 6.
All right, 6 is a residential building improvement program funding agreement between the CRA and the owners of 420 Hillcrest Street. This time, the proposed improvements were estimated at a value of $23,845, making them eligible for just over $11,922. Again, the Grant Review Committee recommends approval, and staff is requesting approval.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion. All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And number 7.
And finally, this residential building improvement program funding agreement is between the CRA and the owners of 739 West Concord Street. Again, the program allows for reimbursement of up to 50%, but because this is within the Paramore Heritage area, the not to exceed here is $30,000. The applicant's investment for the proposed improvements is estimated at just over $52,000. Making them eligible for funding assistance of $26,094.50. The Grant Review Committee has recommended approval, and staff is requesting approval.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Thomas, while you're up, would you address ordinance number 2021-39 that relates to the speaker moratorium and then the discussion related to the sidewalk cafe hours?
Certainly, Mayor. Thank you. And I'll just remind commissioners that in our last meeting on May 17th, we came before you with several items regarding the same subject matter based on recent incidents of violence within downtown Orlando. And this is the slide that we show in that presentation, this next step. So I want to take you through kind of the update, if you will, on each of these next steps and where we are. The first one, implementing short-term recommendations and studying their impacts. Obviously, today, the second read for the ordinance is on the agenda, which, if passed, will allow us to implement the 6-month moratorium on external speakers or outdoor speakers, which are on the public right away or directed at the public right away. In addition to that, as the mayor mentioned earlier, there's no change in sidewalk cafe operating hours being contemplated at this time. However, there's an increase of enforcement emphasis on the current sidewalk cafe ordinance and requirements thereof, including being permitted, which most of the sidewalk cafes that we have in downtown right now are not validly permitted. You recall that you approved additional code enforcement resources for downtown that will allow us to enhance the enforcement of this ordinance, as well as other components of downtown, particularly at night, including the noise ordinance and occupancy matters. And finally, you recall also that as a part of those actions, you increased or approved for the increase in OPD resources dedicated to downtown at night, particularly on the weekends. Happy to report that Chief Rolone has been immediately responsive, and there are more officers on the street as we speak at night in downtown Orlando on the weekends. That's been met with positive feedback by the stakeholders thus far. And of course, the additional cameras and license readers that you authorized the procurement or in the process of being procured at this time. The next point is engage our business community and other downtown stakeholders. We've held numerous meetings since May 17th and prior to that with the downtown operators and stakeholders. There have been 2 email blasts that have gone out to that stakeholder base. And those email blasts not only informed them of what was being contemplated, but invited them to participate, to click on a link if they wanted to be notified of all upcoming meetings to talk about, to dialogue on providing more safety to downtown. So that dialogue, of course, continues, Mayor and Council, and will continue, and we will report out on the results of that. The next point is the comprehensive look at safety measures within downtown. That is ongoing. Staff has been asked by the mayor to look at other cities, and we're doing that. We're researching other cities and other downtowns, and, because this is not a unique situation to downtown Orlando, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I guess. But, and of course, continued collaboration with OPD, code enforcement, planning. Ultimately, it should include also our fire department and others as warranted will occur as we continue to look at what are a complex set of circumstances and challenges that we hope to improve upon. And then the final point was to come back with recommendations on long-term solutions to increase safety for everyone in the area. And of course, as a result of the work that we're doing now in the upcoming weeks, the results of the research and the analysis of that research and that work and that collaboration, including a nighttime economic impact and assessment study, which was already in the works, will be forthcoming, and of course additional recommendations, Mayor and Council, by staff, based on, again, the collaboration and the research and the analysis will be forthcoming at that time.
Questions for Thomas, Commissioner Ortiz, then Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Thomas. I just have a question. Isn't this a project that should be led by the Orlando Police Department?
I'm sorry, say it again?
This project, shouldn't this project be led by the Orlando Police Department?
This project be led? Well, I mean, certainly when it comes to public safety, they are the lead agency, obviously, and we depend upon them for that. We collaborate closely with them, and we'll continue to do so. As we come back, Commissioner, in the future, I would expect that you will hear from myself in addition to either Chief Rollon or his designee on various components of the overall recommendations.
As their expertise, isn't it, safety? So I would imagine that they would lead. Besides, they have all kinds of elements within the police department, from crime prevention through environmental design. I mean, they have different units that can definitely help. Actually, they can guide our customers downtown in terms of implementing better, better ideas or whatnot in terms of how to enhance the safety of downtown.
Certainly, we agree. And as I said, we're working closely with and look forward to continue to do that.
Okay. And taking also the fact that the chief, is my understanding, they go to the FBI Academy, so they have plenty of partners over there that can give them tips on how to implement new, new conditions or whatnot, and help our constituents downtown. Anyhow, I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thomas, a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Who define for me, if you would, who our downtown stakeholders are, number one, and two, what's the timing to do this in your mind?
Okay. Downtown stakeholders, stakeholders are those who have a stake in that particular subject matter. And so in this case, our downtown stakeholders are largely the hospitality industry, whether that be the bars and clubs that we know about, or the concert venues that we know about, or the hotels and the restaurants. Anyone in that hospitality, and particularly that are active at night. There are some other industries outside of that. And of course, the stakeholder list is not foreclosed to anyone, Commissioner, but that's the primary group that we're addressing with these particular issues at this time. And so far as the timing, in my final statement, I said in coming weeks. These things take a little time, and we're not only, when I say that we're researching other cities, for example, we're going beyond looking at their websites and reading what's on the websites. That's pretty easy to do, but that sometimes or usually doesn't give you the full story of how those things are being implemented and what the results are of those various initiatives and plans. And so we're trying to find actual contacts in those cities that we can talk to people and dialogue with them in real time about, all right, how has this worked? What have been the challenges you found with that? If you were doing it again, what would you change? So all of that, of course, takes some time. It just so happens, as you know, that we do not have a downtown night manager at this time. So we're a little bit down in staff, but we have adequate staff to handle it, and that research has already started, is ongoing. But I suspect that in the next, I'd say, 6 to 10 weeks, we should have stuff that, some things that will be very, very tangible regarding follow-up recommendations on this. Some of this we already know, Commissioner, that we want to bring forth. We just also we want to put together programmatic support for the initiative. So not just come out and say we think you should require this of stakeholders or operators, but as we're requiring it, we can support it with a program. And so those programs are also being contemplated, so we can roll those out together.
Well, Thomas, I would suggest that while we seem to be focusing a lot of our energy on nighttime, and that's very important, I also think we need to focus equally on daytime. And the reason I say that is because we're now coming out of COVID. There's a lot of downtown employers in these office buildings that are trying to convince their employees to come back to the office. And a lot want to work remotely. And so it's not just a downtown thing or a nighttime thing. It is a daytime thing. Because look, let's look at economics. And I admit, you guys know I'm in this business, so I'll make that declaration. But our biggest taxable vehicle downtown isn't the bars, it isn't the restaurants, it's the office buildings. And I looked and I just took a glance today. Let's take 20 North Orange. We all know that building. That's the Morgan & Morgan building. On the property appraiser's website, that was valued at $41 million. And at today's millage rates, between city, county, et cetera, that pays about $800,000 a year. $275,000 we get as a city, but that asset pays $800,000 a year in taxes. If that goes down in value 10% because people don't come back to work, not because they want to work at home, but because there's nothing for them downtown in the way of amenities, that is about a $100,000 hit to our taxable base. And so, guys, the CRA funds a ton of what we do here. And we have got to protect not just the nighttime entertainment. We do, that's important. But we got to look at the daytime activities. And I just feel like for the last couple of years, and this isn't the blame game, I don't look in the rearview mirror, I look out the windshield. Where are we going? And we have got to deal with what's going on downtown. And to Commissioner Hill's point, we've got a homeless issue. And like it or not, it has a negative impact on the daytime operations of people downtown. To solve that problem, we need good ideas and we need money. We need a strong downtown that's going to put some tax money in the bucket so we can pay for some of this stuff, because it's not cheap. So maybe this isn't the venue to air all that out, but there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's not just a security thing, and it's not a nighttime thing. And the reason I asked the question about concerned stakeholders, this sounds mean-spirited, but I wouldn't rely on the nighttime operators to be concerned stakeholders, because they've had several years to be concerned stakeholders, and they haven't showed me that they care. I mean, I asked a couple of questions this week. How many, do they even have an association where those operators get together and talk about challenges to their industry? The answer is no.
Correct.
They care about themselves. And so I'm just trying to encourage us, we need to take a holistic approach at this. The other big challenge, and you've heard me say it before, we've got a big investment in our venues. The Performing Arts Center, the Arena, Creative Village, and to some extent, Orlando City Soccer. COVID's over. People are coming back. We're going to start having concerts. We're going to start having performing arts. We need to have a downtown environment that people want to stay in and experience, not just come to a show or a concert or a ball game and then jump in a car and go back. So I've been saying this for a couple of years, folks, but we need to dig in, and I think we need to dig in fast and across a lot of spectrums, because there's a lot at play. And I'll leave with this. We've all seen this because we've all lived in Central Florida. The number one thing that's killing us right now is negative press. We know the press grabs headlines. What's the headline? Person shot in downtown Orlando. Person stabbed in downtown Orlando. Nobody reads the article. They see the headline. And right now there's a lot of companies that are thinking about relocating to Florida. We want to be on that list. Until our downtown gets fixed up, we're not on that list. The suburbs are on the list, but downtown's not. I've said, if you want to look at the data and don't listen to me, we built one new office building in downtown Orlando in 10 years, and that's the new Truist Center. It's mixed use, half hotel, half office building. We're building office and creating that work environment in the suburbs. It's not coming downtown. Why? Because people have choices, and they're not choosing downtown. So we've got to dig in on this. So I'm here to help, but I think we got to press on the accelerator and not on the brake, because we've got an opportunity, and I don't want to miss it.
You just said a whole lot, Commissioner, and I won't try to address it all. I'll start off by saying, you recall that the context that I'm giving an update on was a nighttime problem, a nighttime safety problem. That is why I said that stakeholders are defined by the subject matter. So the stakeholders in this situation dealing with nighttime safety are nighttime operators. That's why I limited my definition to stakeholders this time to hospitality and those businesses dealing at night. Beyond that, happy to say, and I thought we had talked to the council about this, we're ahead of you on that, Commissioner. We understand that daytime means everything. We know that Class A office space pays the bills in downtown. We get that. We've had that discussion. And to that end, we've surveyed the ownership of 60% of all the Class A office within downtown over the last 2 months. We've actually not just sent something to them in writing, we've actually talked to them in person. We talked to real people representing the owners of all the major office buildings in downtown. And to our surprise, most of them said to us different things, but it came down to there's nothing overt that you need to change, Mr. Chapman or Mr. Barilla, in your downtown. You need to keep doing what you were doing. We are finding that our leasing is coming back strong. We anticipate that our customer base, our tenant base is going to be secure. Some of them, they gave us varying degrees of when the offices would be 50%, 75%, and 100% occupied. Most of them were skittish on 100%. They wouldn't give you a firm, definitive answer on 100%, but they did ask us to come back in the summer when they have better information, and we intend to do that. So my point to you is we get it. We understand daytime is extremely important, but the genesis of the discussion that I was talking about when I got up was based on the 2 shootings that we had recently and the crisis that brings about in that same perception that you're talking about, in that same news coverage that you're also correctly talking about. So it's all circular, quite frankly, but I certainly don't want you to think that we're focusing on just nighttime at the expense of daytime. We certainly are not doing that, and we'll continue to focus on all of downtown Orlando.
Got it. I understand that. It's just, it all works together.
Sure.
As I've said,
I agree.
We're one-dimensional downtown, and that's bars. Give me 5 restaurants that have linen tablecloths downtown. Go ahead, give me 5.
Well, you
don't have them,
what I would
Thomas.
say
I'm
to
just
you,
telling you don't have them. So it's
I
not
agree
just
with
a
that.
nighttime, it's a daytime thing. And so we gotta look at it holistically.
You also just heard me say we're going to have the results of a nighttime economic impact analysis that I think you're going to find very intriguing. And the reason we're doing that was because of the questions that you bring about. Just how valuable is nighttime? It's costing us a lot of resources. You've pointed that out. We dedicate a lot of city resources to it. But what is it bringing back? And so the return on that investment is something that we're going to be able to demonstrate in short order. Again, this study was ongoing prior to the incidents. We put it on hold because of what you said. We actually put the study on hold, and the mayor's aware of this from his briefings, because we wanted to make sure that we were paying correct attention to and giving high priority to coming out of the pandemic for the daytime businesses, for daytime office workers and whatnot. We can all walk around and see that it's just not what it was, insofar as pedestrian traffic during the day. The nighttime economy, by the way, seems to come back quicker. There are bigger crowds at night. But so this nighttime economy impact analysis and study will quantify, if you will, what that is, what the economic impact of the nighttime economy is, and I think will help us attribute more value to that nighttime economy. Again, Class A office pays the bills. If that's the headline from this exchange between you and I'm fine with that headline because I know it to be true. We've had this discussion many times. I wouldn't want anyone to think that we're focusing on nighttime at the expense of daytime. We understand that it's all important. It's all circular, as you said.
Okay. Well, look, I'm here to talk about it with anybody that wants to, including you.
Sure.
And Thomas, I will bring folks to the table that'll give you the real answer because they give it to me because they know I'm sitting here. Right. And I think perhaps they're being politically correct when they give you answers because they don't want to hurt your feelings or put themselves in an awkward spot. But trust me when I tell you there are a ton of folks downtown in the business world that are not pleased with our downtown during the day. Forget about night because they don't come down. But we've got a lot of challenges. We could fix them, but I think we've got to get everybody at the table and not just a select group. Because I've seen the select group. We did a study 3 years ago, and what we found, we need a nighttime manager. Well, that didn't work out so good. So enough said.
I debate that, Commissioner, but and I think we don't have a nighttime manager now because she moved on to a different path in her career. But I mean,
But how many times did she come here and say, "Hey, I've got a problem. I need the council's help"?
But that's my job.
She never came here to tell us we need help.
I came to you on her behalf, as I'm doing now, on behalf of if we had that person, and I suspect that we will be hiring another person for that role in the not too distant future. But that would be my responsibility for coming and asking for those resources, and I certainly will not be shy about doing that, as you know, as I've done in the past.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's move on to Commissioner Burns.
Yes, Thomas, thank you for the presentation. Just had a question. When you mentioned the engagement of the business community, do they have any suggestions of things that they can do differently, or some things that
Yes.
could potentially happen?
Yes, the short answer, Commissioner, is yes. They have many. They have several. And we're engaging with them, and I think Commissioner Gray would be interested in this particular point, as all of you would. We're not only engaging and asking them for their ideas, because they're free to bring those ideas forth anytime. We're also engaging with them to talk about their obligation and therefore their commitment to contributing to the resolution of these problems. Again, that's a more nuanced conversation that I won't get into the weeds on right now. But so that dialogue is serious and sincere. And again, we look forward to the results of it and reporting out on that at a later time. But yes, we've got probably 25 or 35 suggestions already, from various entities within the stakeholder group that we're talking to.
But, and I guess I was asking, do they see that they can do something different to positively impact what's happening? Has those types of ideas? Because everybody can always point at the city and say, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do.
Right.
So I'm trying to see, have we got any feedback of them saying, this is what we can do as...
Yes, but as, again, Commissioner Gray has validly pointed out, they do not speak with one voice because they do not have an established, quote-unquote, association, merchants association or any tangible group that officially represents them as a group. So as we're dealing with them, you're getting the feedback from various entities, various ownership groups. But yes, there has been some of that, and we're trying to extract even more of that. But yeah, there has been some suggestions on their behalf where they feel like they could do a better job of certain things that would help with the problem. Now, whether or not their beliefs are prudent or correct, that's not to say necessarily yes or no, but I do want to say, to answer your question directly, some of them, the minority obviously of what's coming from them, but some of what they're suggesting are ways that they could help, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. And my concern was about allowing the council to set the sidewalk cafe hours by resolution. So my concern was, how would we notify the restaurants of the change in the sidewalk cafe hours? But I have a concern that I was not aware of until I talked to staff about it. And I was going to vote against it until I realized this. Many of these sidewalk cafes are not permitted. So how can you notify them of a change in a permit that they don't have, and they've just decided to put the street furniture out there without permission? So that's a whole nother thing. So that's why you have my support now, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm all about notifying people, but not if you haven't even asked permission in the first place. So but I still want to know when they come into compliance, and hopefully they will.
Yes.
How will we then notify them if we're going to set the sidewalk cafe hours by resolution?
Commissioner, there's a whole process, that of anything that comes on your agenda that is required by statute to publish that, prior to it coming. But in addition to that, this same dialogue that we're talking about on this particular issue, with these various stakeholders and whatnot, and that item that you're talking about has been a key item of concern. That's why I understand why you are concerned about it. Commissioner Hills has expressed a similar concern. I think she did earlier today, why she's concerned about it as well. We would obviously, in the dialogue that we're having, if we're going to bring that back, and at this point, we're not contemplating necessarily bringing that back, because what we found in the original listening that we did to stakeholders and analyzing our own recommendation at that point, it was a little short of a recommendation, but we said we might include it on a forthcoming resolution, which has not yet come forth. But we recognized that there were more unintended consequences, and those unintended consequences outweighed the potential benefit of implementing that particular policy. And that's why we backed off of it. And so we will continue to have, I hope, a common sense approach to things. We're not looking to put people out of businesses necessarily. That's not what we're trying to do. As you know, we're trying to make downtown safe, day, night, 24/7. So as the commissioner mentioned, you know, when there's a bad news story, it hurts it all. It doesn't just hurt it at one time. So we would expect that the dialogue will be so open that they will know what's coming before it comes, but also email blasts as we do. We'll let them know that this is forthcoming, if it should come. And again, I don't contemplate at this point addressing the hours of the Sidewalk Cafe because of the analysis we just made, and I told you what the results of that were. So, but rest assured that I think this council's reputation, certainly the mayor's reputation, is for being inclusive and for giving everybody an opportunity to speak to an issue regardless of whether or not the protocol is there, the policy exists or not. If they come, they get to speak. I'm sure we would continue that. I can't speak for the mayor, but that's consistent with the 14 years I've been here with him. And we would continue to do that. I just want to say this. We're not looking to sneak anything by anybody. I mean, that's not the right way. And I understand there were some people concerned about that. So I get that. I heard that concern as well, just like I'm sure you did. But that's not the point at all. We acted quickly because of the order of magnitude of people being murdered on the streets. It was as simple as that. We thought, and we still think, that it warranted immediate action. So it was never about how quickly we did something to try and get something past, you know, the stakeholders before they had an opportunity to opine on it. It was more about the urgency of the matter that we were attempting to address.
So, Commissioner, this is the city council, and our constituents live a mile from here or 500 yards just in the legislature, where they sequester themselves in Tallahassee and then sneak stuff through in the budget at the very end. We're all about having a robust discussion on whatever issue may concern our residents.
But sometimes things do come on at the last minute, and that's my concern. I just want to make sure that we're going to be notifying people in a timely fashion. I mean, there's sometimes, frankly, on the city council, I'm surprised by stuff.
Well, on
on the
this
agenda.
particular issue, we know who the interested parties will be.
All right, thank you.
I mean, sometimes when you give notice on land use changes and you have a certain distance you're supposed to notify people, there might be people that are a little further away than you would have anticipated that have some concerns that sometimes say they didn't know about it. Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Thomas, for the presentation and working in the urgency of now. So as we move forward I heard you state that many of the cafes right now don't have proper permits or non-compliant. Is there a time frame where we can bring them where they can become compliant, and what's that process?
Sure, yeah, well, certainly we're looking at a cure period. And let me just say as a qualifier, many of the components of what we're talking about now, as you get to the granular level, are out of the purview of the DDB-CRA, so I do not speak as the authority on those. I mean, I don't want to step on anybody else's. I mean, there's a director of permitting, you know, for example, whose team will handle all the permitting stuff. There's a director, as you know, of code enforcement. So all due respect to those folks. We're all collaborating a lot. We're talking about this all. So yes, we've talked about a cure period. Commissioner, I suspect, and nothing's in writing yet, we've talked about August 1 being a cure period, giving us, you know, a couple months to give people time to get in compliance. If you look at the last e-blast that we sent out, it also provided on that blast a link to take you to how you apply. It also provided another link to the actual Sidewalk Cafe ordinance so that you could, you know, educate yourself and see what the requirements were. So we expect to walk people through. We admit on the side of the city that when you look at the fact that the vast majority of sidewalk cafes were not permitted, that's probably a failure on the city's part, more so than it is on all these different operators' parts. So we're looking internally at what we can do better in order to make it easier for them to remember that they need to renew these permits on an annual basis, not just get one and it lasts forever. So we're working on that. But again, there are many other divisions and departments that this touches upon, and I don't want to assume anything on their behalf. They will be quite authoritative appropriately.
Well, with us coming out the pandemic, and I know we've been, this council and this mayor, and yourself and your team has been great with trying to alleviate some costs on permittings and things. Will that apply to this particular permit?
I'm sorry, trying to alleviate what?
Absorb some of the costs with different businesses downtown, what I think with permitting. Will this also be a part of that CRA initiative to help them circumvent some costs associated with getting the permits?
First, as I assume that you're probably aware, the ordinance provides for what a sidewalk cafe permit cost will be and then what a renewal cost would be. The initial cost, I believe, is $500. The renewal cost is $50 per year. I don't think anybody out there would argue with those kinds of costs. By the way, one of the suggestions about, in answer to the Commissioner Burns' question about whether any stakeholders are coming forth with suggestions of how they could help, one of the suggestions that's come from more than one is that they were willing and able to pay a higher fee in order to compensate for more law enforcement or more code enforcement on the streets. Again, I'm not sure if that ever manifests itself in a recommendation to you, but I'm saying that's one of the suggestions they have made. They have come forward with on their own. Your second part of your question of whether or not we will have a program to assist with the payment of that fee is something we haven't contemplated yet, Commissioner. We'll certainly put that into the mix and see what we consider.
Because I know the bars and things like that aren't hurting, but probably some of the cafes that people dine on the patio or whatever probably have been impacted terribly since we didn't have a downtown day or night for such a long time.
Sure.
And them trying to build back their patrons, like a Hamburger Mary and a House and those type of restaurants.
Understood. We'll certainly take it into consideration. We appreciate the thought.
Okay, thank you, Thomas.
All right, thank you all, and appreciate your support on this.
Without objection, we'll adjourn the CRA meeting and reconvene the city council meeting. Let's move to hearings, ordinances on second reading. Number one, Madam Clerk, you are up.
Ordinance 2021-15, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of West Colonial Drive, east of Mercy Drive, and south of W.D. Judge Drive, and comprised of 8.28 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as industrial and public, recreational, and institutional on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as the industrial, commercial, and public use districts with a Wekiva overlay on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk, is there anyone wishing public participation?
No, Mayor.
No public comment, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, you might just lower your mask while you're doing the reading. It's difficult if anybody's actually listening to what you're reading, but it's still difficult to understand. Number two.
Ordinance 2021-27, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Narcoossee Cove 1 and 2 Plan Development Zoning District, providing for amendment of special land development regulations for a portion of the property generally located east of Narcoossee Road, south of State Road 417, north of Tyson Road, and west of Lake Whippoorwill, comprising 6.76 acres of land, more or less, providing the prior ordinances still in effect, providing for permit disclaimer, correction of scrivener's error, severability, and an effective date.
Move to adopt. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ray. Commissioner Stewart?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Stewart. I'm so used to Commissioner Ortiz being the second over there.
I got it louder than him.
Any public participation?
No, Mayor.
All right. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number three.
Ordinance 2021-34, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to a street name change, renaming Stonewall Jackson Road, which is described in Plat Spanish Oak South Unit Number 2, as recorded in Plat Book 6, page 9 of the Public Records of Orange County, Florida, generally located between South Summeron Boulevard and Jelwood Avenue, north of Curry Ford Road and south of Lake Whippoorwill, or south of Lake Underhill Road, to Roberto Clemente Road, directing amendments to the official maps of the City of Orlando, Florida, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone who wants to speak?
No, Mayor.
Discussion?
Mayor, that means we're going to have a nickname for the street, 21?
21.
So, anyhow, that's it. Those are my comments.
Yeah, all in favor, that's Roberto Clemente's number, if anybody wasn't completely following that. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. As opposed? All right, congratulations, Commissioner Ortiz. We'll get a little cherry picker and we'll go change those signs out.
You're doing a great job.
Okay, let's move on to number 4.
Ordinance 2021-39, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to restrictions on the use of public's right-of-way, imposing a temporary moratorium on new permits and permit renewals for sound amplification devices within the public's right-of-way in the downtown entertainment area, adopting findings of fact, directing staff to study and report to the City Council on public health, safety, and welfare concerns relating to the use of sound amplification devices within the public rights-of-way in the downtown entertainment area by a date certain, amending Section 54.28 Orlando City Code to provide a method for establishing hours of operation for sidewalk cafes, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Burns. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone wishing to speak?
No, Mayor.
Hence, we worked some things out, Mr. Sheehan. Okay, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, let's move to ordinances on first reading, number 1.
An ordinance of the City Ordinance number 2021-7, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located on the northwest corner of West Colonial Drive and Mercy Drive and comprised of 1.04 acres of land, more or less, designing the property as industrial on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as general industrial with the Wakaiba Overlay District on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk?
No speakers.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
Ordinance 2021-25, an ordinance amending Chapter 54 City Code Streets and Sidewalks by changing the term transportation area to transportation benefit area in order to clarify the geographic area in which sidewalk construction funds may be expended, providing legislative findings, definitions, penalties, and for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk?
No speakers, Mayor.
No speakers, discussion.
Yeah, I have discussion, Mayor. I do not agree with the city engineering having discretion to determine that a sidewalk is not practical. I would prefer to have if the council is going to pass this, I would prefer to have a pilot program in my district, not allowing that discretion, because the problem is the sidewalks just are not getting completed. And during COVID, we had really bad problems in some of my district because these sidewalks were not completed. And anybody who knows how difficult it is to put sidewalks in, it's best to put them in when the people have to come in to get a permit. That's the easiest way to do it. Trying to go back in after the fact, after people have already paid into the sidewalk fund and they think they paid it away, it's just not good public policy. We are on the #1 pedestrian fatality list in America every year, or in the top 10, because we don't build sidewalks. And I understand if there's a tree or some big problem, but now it's just gotten to the point where if there's not an existing sidewalk, they can pay to make it go away. And I don't agree with that. You're never going to link the sidewalks I have areas in my district that have completely redeveloped, but because the permits came in at different times, the sidewalks never went in. And then when you got to go back and try to get these sidewalks put in, people just don't want to, they feel like they don't have to do it because they paid to make it go away. I don't think it's good public policy. I don't think it's safe. At this city council, many years ago, and I know this has been in place for a long time because they snuck it in and I didn't get to see it. But, you know, I had death threats for sidewalks, for goodness sake, but I thought it was very important public policy. You used to open up the Orlando Sentinel the first week of school, and you would see a half dozen children getting killed. Because we decided to put sidewalks in within a mile of every elementary school, we don't have that problem anymore, and I'm proud that we did that. But we still haven't gotten that last mile. We're putting scooters all over the place and doing all this other stuff, but we're not committed to that last mile of sidewalk construction. And as a policymaker, I think that is wrong. So if we can't at least do the right thing with this discretion situation, I would at least like to have a pilot program in my district to take away that discretion so I can get some sidewalks built. As my area redevelops, I'm having a lot of infill done. I don't mind if the sidewalks aren't connected because then we can go back and connect them. It's a lot easier to do that than to go back and do entire areas when people don't want sidewalks. I don't know why in Florida, it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. People do not want sidewalks in certain areas of downtown Orlando, and it's just easier to get it when they need to do it as part of a permit. So I will be voting no on this today. I strenuously disagree with this policy, and I wish I had had a chance to vote on it when it was put in place, but I will not agree to any kind of a change to this because I think it's just wrong. So thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner, I appreciate what your position is, but this just allows us to charge more for the in lieu of payment other than just the concrete. It's the only change.
Well, and I understand that, but this is an addendum to a policy that I never got a chance to vote on. I would have never voted on. I still don't understand how this policy came into place.
Okay, I just want to make clear we're not voting on the entire policy. We're just saying if there are ancillary things other than the cost of concrete.
But this is the
we
first
charge
time
for that.
I've gotten an opportunity to express this concern.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. And I really would like a pilot program in order to put sidewalks in my district.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. The discretion part, is staff working with us like they always do, right?
There's no change. The only thing that's
No
in
change, yeah.
this particular ordinance is we describe what, when you pay in, such payment shall be the equivalent of the per linear cost to the city for installing the sidewalk. This is the payment in lieu of, based upon the effect of the time of permit issuance, using 6-inch thick concrete for a driveway and 4-inch thick for the remainder, what we're adding, as well as any other ancillary items. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, show it 6-1. Let's see. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2021-38, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida relating to the installation of walk-up windows, amending Chapter 58, Part 5B of the Land Development Code to add Subpart 5B20 entitled Walk-up Windows, providing legislative findings and for codification, correction of Scrivener's error, severability, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Burns. Madam Clerk.
No speakers, Mayor.
No speakers, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the
Mayor,
motion.
I do have a
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry, I didn't see you running.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wish staff, if they can run this by us again, I don't get this particular ordinance we're trying to do here, the walk-ups. I think the way it is right now is safe enough. I don't know why I looked at it, I don't even remember who I discussed this with, but I don't see what's the need for this particular. Can anybody from our staff see what, who's the one requesting this? And then
Come on up,
can you
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mayor. This came about partly because of COVID, and we had more businesses wanting to do a walk-up service. So our code was a little bit vague. We have drive-through standards, which are much more stringent, dealing with speakers and turnaround areas and that kind of thing. And we really felt like it was important to have some standards for walk-up windows so that they don't become late night kind of hangout areas, but there is a way to allow staff to review them and make comments and approve, so we know where they are and what their hours are going to be. So that's what this code amendment is about.
But since we're going back, COVID is, we're not totally there, but we almost, I guess, there. Is this really necessary?
There still are a lot of people doing delivery services, and then, the delivery drivers can use these walk-up windows if they need them.
From the safety standpoint, doesn't this present a greater danger?
In terms of what?
Safety. Walk-ups to windows.
Well, they would be open when the business is open, so you could go inside, but you save yourself a little time, and you don't have to go into the building and wait in line. If you have an online order, you can just get it directly from the window. So that's kind of the idea behind
When
it.
I'm walking into a window, I don't know, I've seen I come from a place where there's a lot of jacking up through the windows like that, and I'm a little concerned that this may generate some of those instances. Food for thought, something we should probably consult with the Orlando Police Department in terms of pros and cons of this particular ordinance.
We do have a number of existing walk-up windows that, some of them have been there for 40 years and some are more established, but I'm not aware of any of those safety concerns, but I can certainly check with the police chief and see if that's something we need to address.
Commissioner, I think what she's saying is it just became apparent during COVID that we didn't have any standards related to this, so we'll grandfather whoever we have to grandfather in, but going forward, we'll have some regulations.
Exactly.
Okay. Just checking. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Further discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 4.
Ordinance 2021-41, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida relating to the Florida Building Code, amending Article 1, Chapter 13, Orlando City Code to adopt the Florida Building Code 7th Edition 2020, providing local administrative amendments to the Florida Building Code and ultimate design wind speeds for buildings and other structures within the city, providing for transmittal to the Florida Building Commission, severability, codification, correction of Scrivener's error, and an effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk,
No speakers, Mayor.
discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Number 5, related to scooters, we'll hear that at the next meeting. So, Ed, if you can get us in a position to go to general appearances.
We return you to our regularly scheduled programming, already in progress.
Orange TV, your government in action. When you need information or just need a helping hand. When art and culture matter. When you need to know. When getting back to nature. When safety matters. Bringing our community closer. Your government in action. Orange TV.
As Central Florida continues to reopen, doing your part matters. For the safety and protection of everyone's health, we all have a hand in doing our part. That means our businesses and consumers are following the safety protocols by wearing masks, washing hands, and practicing social distancing. Let's sustain that sense of community, because here in Central Florida, during good times and hard times, our sense of community makes us stronger. Let's stick to the guidelines. That way we are all safer and stronger together. Learn more at doyourpartorl.com.
Is a bunch of neighbors coming together, committed to purchasing solar for a group discount. And sometimes they can get 20 to 30% savings on their solar system.
It's a greener way to keep our house cool and to live here in Florida.
No-brainer. I mean, it certainly made sense all the way around, from the planet aspect to the financial aspect to the idea of having power when a hurricane comes through.
Hard to understand why everybody doesn't do it, frankly.
Just take the plunge and go solar.
Did you know drowning prevention is a family activity? Swim lessons for parents and toddlers are a first step toward water safety.
We are getting high-quality swimming lessons.
Having high-quality swim lessons is just one thing you can do to make sure there's not one more Florida. To find out more, contact the Central Florida Water Safety Task Force.
Yeah, you need to be careful around the tracks.
Whoa, did you see that squirrel?
I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous.
When it rains, nitrogen from your fertilizer washes from your yard and ends up in the Floridan Aquifer, the source of Springs water. Keeping nitrogen out of our waters is the best way to fight algae. Here's how. Skip the nitrogen fertilizer during the summer rainy season. In spring and fall, use fertilizer with at least 65% slow release. Plant a spring-friendly yard with Florida-friendly plants. Keep our lakes, rivers, and springs clean for boating, fishing, and swimming, and safe for the otters, turtles, and fish that call them home. Learn more at myyardmysprings.org.
International Drive. Before the pandemic, thousands upon thousands flocked here for meetings and events, and area businesses benefited tremendously. Of course, since, they have suffered. One such company, Original Orlando Tours, they are ready and eager for travelers to once again come back in earnest to the heart of iDrive.
On a sunny day, along a red brick road, you might not realize you're just a few miles away from some of the most popular theme parks in the world. But that's precisely the idea. This family-owned and operated touring company prides itself on showing the other great spots in Orlando.
It started because family and friends